All right. Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? So, welcome to tonight's program. My name is Amy. I am a librarian and I also have my own podcast. So, I wanted to teach this program just because this is a question that we do get every so often is like, how do you start a podcast? And I see this all the time. And from doing it on my own and with like minimal cost, it actually is a lot simpler than you may think. Like when you think of podcasts, you may be thinking, I need all this equipment. I need to know how to do sound editing. I need to know how to do all these things. And you don't need to be an expert like by any means at all. You can start a podcast, and that's what this program is going to be. I'm going to share the 3 simple tools that I use that I do not pay for because I love things for free. And that has allowed me in the past 2 months to get a podcast started, and with minimal promotions already have over 100 listens to my my podcast. So if you have any questions, just put them in either the chat or the Q&A, and I will get to them at the end. I'll pause like in between also, like each part. So if you do have any questions, like you can put them in the chat. If you need me to go over something again, like I am more than happy to do that as I move through this presentation. So, okay, so what we are going to cover is what you need to start a podcast, creating a plan, how to create podcast graphics, how you can record and edit episodes, and podcast hosting. So it's a lot, so I may go a little quick, but like I said, if you have any questions, need me to go over something again, just put it in either the Q&A or the chat box, and I will answer any questions that you have in case I'm going a little bit too quickly. So these are the 3 tools that I use for podcasting. I use Canva for graphics. This is something that you can use for free, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And in fact, this presentation was made with Canva. And then Audacity is a free audio editing software that can be used for PCs and Macs. I personally have a PC. I know for audio editing, you can use GarageBand for any Apple products. However, since I don't have like a MacBook or a Mac computer, I don't have experience with that. So I'm going to be showing you Audacity. And then what I use to host the podcast for free is Anchor. It is by Spotify, and it takes so much of the guesswork out of podcasting and how to put everything out there. Like they take care of all of that for you, which is amazing. So we'll go ahead and get started. So first of all, like getting started with the podcast is having some sort of idea, like what kind of podcast you want to create. Do you want to record episodes of like just you talking about whatever subject is that you want to talk about? Do you want to have a podcast where you interview people? Or do you want to create a podcast with a co-host? Maybe you and a friend want to like talk about whatever. You know, with me and my friends, we've talked about wanting to start like a podcast where we just talk about the Harry Potter books and everything. We have not done that. In my podcast, it is, I do a hybrid of me talking and also me interviewing people around a modality called human design. It's similar to astrology, but a little bit different. That's personally what my podcast is. So there is like a plan that you have to have. Like, is it just going to be you creating the episodes, and when you are interviewing other people, you have to have a plan to like schedule out those interviews and making sure that you're giving, if you want to give things to the people that you're interviewing to help promote your podcast, you want to make sure that you have all of those like assets ready to give to the other person, like by the time the podcast episode is going to come out. So it's really important to just like think about these things as you're wanting to get your podcast started and having some sort of plan. And then the next part of that is like mapping out episodes and actually like putting it in your calendar. Because I can tell you from me like trying to organize everything, like it wasn't until I actually like sat and mapped out the episodes and okay, this is going to air on this date, this is going to air on this date. This really helped me to stay organized and stay like on track. Otherwise, like my episodes would just sit in, you know, in my own computer and not necessarily get published if I didn't actually like create like a map and put it in my calendar. And I'll show you in Anchor when I get to that part, you can actually schedule out your episodes to be like released at a certain point in time. And that has been like so helpful for me. Like when I set aside time in my calendar, like, okay, this is when I'm going to work on my podcast, which I did some work on it today, actually a lot of work on it today. And I was able to just schedule things out in Anchor, and then I don't have to worry about it when the actual like episode comes out, and that way like there's things for my listeners to continuously listen to. And then also something to consider like when you're beginning your podcast is people like to listen to more than one episode at a time. And you know, there's this, for me, when I listen to podcasts, I play them in my car. And so I like to have it on an automatic loop. So when you're launching your podcast, launching multiple episodes at the same time, just for like when you actually like put it out there and like hit publish, having more than one episode ready for your listeners to listen to, because they have this tendency to want to listen to more than one episode at a time. And then you can go back to releasing like one episode. And the other part of making a plan is deciding like, okay, do I want to release one episode a week, 2 episodes a week? Like how often do you want to release episodes? And so having multiple episodes and having this plan in place can be really helpful for getting everything together. And here are pretty much like there's simple steps to creating a podcast. Like I said, we tend to like overcomplicate things when it comes to starting a podcast, but it's really simple. Like name your podcast and create graphics. Like what do you want to call it? And also do some searching to make sure that there isn't somebody else that has your podcast name already. That's a simple search in either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can come up with like a name. So maybe the name that you wanted has already been taken. You can figure out like a similar name, and then you can create graphics in Canva, and I will, on the next slide, I will show you how to use Canva. The next part is like recording your intro and outro. If you notice like on podcasts, and this is where people think it has to be like so complicated, and people who have like big budgets and can hire people to like help them with their podcasts, they do like these, you know, interesting things, interesting sound effects and everything. But really like all you need is just some simple music, which I'm going to show you how to get all that. And you just record an intro and then record, it's called an outro. And this just gives your listeners like next steps. Like if you want to further connect with them, where they can connect with you, or inviting them to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. So that way your podcast gets like higher ratings and then it's shown to more people so that you can get more like listeners and downloads and everything. And depending on what your goal is for having a podcast, like whether you want to like make money from it, which is something you can do. Like the more popular your podcast is, like advertisers may want to work with you, or you may get people who want to sponsor your podcast. So inviting your listeners to leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts can really help boost your visibility. And then after, like, you can record an intro and outro once and like reuse it for each episode. And then you can also then the third step is recording episodes and uploading them into the hosting software. So this is where you can use Audacity, you can use Zoom. I use Zoom for my interviews. And then you can also actually record shorter episodes inside Anchor, which I will show you guys in a little bit how that works. Okay. So now we have like using Canva to create graphics, because I think that like the two pieces, at least for me, that felt very like stressful was the creating the graphics and like recording and like editing the audio part. So I'm going to show you guys Canva. I have a tab open right over here. So this is Canva. This is I'm logged in. I have a free account, and all you do is over here you click on create a design. I'm just gonna minimize my face here, and you can just search podcast, and it has podcast cover. And this, so what's nice about this is that it has the correct dimensions that you need the graphic to be. And what's nice about Canva is they have templates. And forgive my computer for being a little slow with this. I'll give it a second, but when you get into Canva, you can use like the templates and modify them a bit, like with whatever you want to call your podcast show, and you can create your own graphics. So shutting off my video to see if this helps. That's like the one thing about with Zoom and sharing screens. Sometimes it doesn't like to move very quickly. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so you can see over here, there are a couple podcasts covers. So like, let's say you like this one, and what you can do is you can change like the background. So like if you just click on it and you see this color block here, and then you can, oh, it doesn't like me. Okay. Going back, like, so this is for the background. See how there's like this really light blue line around the entire thing? You can change the color. Right over here. And so you can, there's default colors. You can like search a color. Let's say you really like purple. And so there's different types of purples. Like, let's say you really like that one. And then what you can do is you can click on like by the letters, and that's going to allow you to change the fonts here. And you can like search anything, or you can just like change it. And you can also change like the title by typing something else. So you can just say Amy. So like, let's say we want to call it the Amy Show. Why not? Because it's my name. And then you can just change the font. Let's say you like this one. And sometimes it like all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's like way too big. You can either move the box and like adjust it that way. Or you can also type in a new number, move the arrows up and down. You can also change the color of the title by clicking on the letter A. And usually, like if it has like that rainbow, it's usually the default. So then you can choose, like, let's say you really like purple and like blue. So you can do that. And then you can click on the podcast graphic here, or the microphone graphic here, and you can see there's like multiple colors here. So you can like customize it. So like, let's say you don't like the orange. You're like, that orange is not my brand, but yellow is. So you can just change the orange to a yellow there. And then this is also going to show you like what colors are in the document. So then this one, you can change it to the blue that is the text right here. And then you can also just like, if you don't like certain elements, you can just delete it. And here you go. We have a simple graphic for the podcast. And then you can just like click on this share, and then you can either like download, share on social media. There's so much that you can do with the graphic, like once you have it. And you can also customize the graphic for each episode. If you like to use Canva, you could just add in text. Like there's things you can add over here. You can add like a setting, subheading, a body of text, and it'll just go in right over here. And then there's an undo button. And then you can also upload. So you can upload from your computer, or you can connect social media and be able to import like pictures here. This is great if you have podcast guests. You can upload media and have like a picture of them, or you can put like pictures of you, or you can just have none and use the graphic here. It all depends on what you are wanting to do with your podcast. So with the Canva, you can create those graphics here. And then the next part is like working on your intro and outro here. So I'm just going to leave this like this size for now, but like an important part is getting music for your podcast. And something that's really important is making sure that you have the correct licensing for use of the music in your podcast. And royalty free means you don't have to pay a fee for each time that you use it. So what I've linked here is, actually, I think 2% it to get to the link. I've linked a couple things here. So this is actually the blog post that I used to find the music that I used for my podcast, because Buzzsprout is a place where you can host your podcast. I haven't used it. I know other people have, but this is, you know, a great resource as far as like what kind of music. And this is where like it's, so there's top, like I got it from here, like top 10 pod safe music resources. Because especially like if your podcast becomes like more well-known, you want to make sure that you're like legally protected with the music that you're using. And so I think I just linked in the presentation Pixabay. And so what you can do is you can just like listen to something that like feels, you know, or whatever you want it to be. And then what you do is you just download it. And oh, of course. Of course I hit oh, this page isn't found. That you can download, and then it's like crediting isn't required, but linking back is greatly appreciated. And so what you can do is in the show notes for your show, you can credit the music like in the show notes, so that way like people know. And like you have this download here, and you can use that for editing, which of course, in the next part, this is what I don't like about Zoom and tabs. It doesn't like me. Let me just close out of that. All right. This is where we're going to bring in Audacity, and this is where we're going to mix the intro and outro here. So I've linked this in the presentation, but it's just audacityteam.org and then download. And you can go through the steps to download Audacity onto your computer, and it's going to, I don't know if the website will come up right away. So okay. You can share. Okay. Okay. So this is Audacity. So when you download it and install it, this is what is going to happen here. And so now what you can do is you can record your like your intro, like what you're going to say. So you just hit record, and here you go. I'm talking, I'm recording. This is my podcast intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Amy, and I'm a librarian, and I'm teaching a podcast course, and this is what I'm going to say. And then when you're ready when you're done, you hit stop. And it's recorded about 21 seconds of audio here. And then what you can do is you can go to File and Import, and you can import audio. And so if you remember what we downloaded from the music site, it was this Caves of Dawn. I don't know what this sounds like, but I did not share my computer sound when I shared the screen. So it's just, I'm just going to show you what this looks like. Okay, so you can scroll down. The bottom is, you can see the title like Caves of Dawn here. It's about like a 3-minute track. So you don't need to keep all of it. So you notice like when I spoke, it's about like 20 seconds. It's like right here. So what we could do is actually just highlight all of this. I just clicked and dragged. And then you can just, here, you could just go to edit and delete. And it's going to delete all of that music right there. And then what you want to do is you want to highlight this. And usually when there's like 2 tracks together, like they're both going to be like kind of loud. So what we're going to do is like you like fade the music so it sounds more in the background. So what you do is like over here, you just move these down so that the music is like softer. And then just gonna stop share. I'm gonna do a new share for a minute. And share the sound. So then what you can do, and then you can like hit record, and here you go, I'm talking, I'm recording, this is my podcast intro. Hi everybody, my name is Amy, and I'm a librarian, and I'm teaching a podcast course, and this is what I'm going to say. And so I don't know if you could hear, but the music was playing like faded in the background there. And if it's too quiet, what you can do is you can kind of, because this, like I said, I didn't really listen to this. I didn't know what it sounds like. I highly recommend listening to the music. Like this is just a demonstration. But you can like go back and play. So I'm talking, I'm recording, this is my podcast intro. Hi everybody, my name is Amy, and I'm a librarian, and I'm teaching a podcast course, and this is what I'm going to say. Okay, so you notice like the music was a little bit louder. This is where you can play around with like how it's going to sound over everything. So like part of it, like it felt like a little bit too loud. So you can like play around with the sound and all that. And that's like what it's going to sound like. And I realized like my microphone is a little bit more muffled than I would like it to be. Like as I was listening to that, I was like, oh, and I'm sorry. My better microphone, I accidentally left it where I am not. So I apologize. But you work with what you have. And so what you can do after you play like you get the track to what you want it to sound like, you can go to file and then export as an MP3. And then you just title it like, I'm just calling it podcast intro test. And it'll tell you like where you can save it. You can put it in whatever folder you want. And like you can just hit OK. You can put in like title and all that, like if you wanted to, but you don't really need to. And there we have our podcast intro. So let me just stop this share really quick. Back. Does anyone have any questions? I'm getting the presentation back up. So that's like a little bit on how you can use Audacity there. And then finally, we have Anchor. And so I'm just going to walk through how you can set everything up on Anchor. And then while that's loading, the microphone that I actually use for a lot of podcast recording is this one, this blue snowball. And it's a nicer microphone. It gives like a better quality sound. I have used like the headphones that I'm using for this presentation. I have used before, but for some reason tonight, like the sound is not as good as it has been in the past. So one thing to check is definitely like checking the quality of your sound as you're recording and everything. Trying to get, Here we go. Okay, so this is what I use. And I'm just going to show you guys how easy it is to just sign up. So just going to put in my autofill. I love it. I'm just going to use this. Doesn't matter. So you just put in, and then you can just sign up. It's like super easy. And here, I'm just gonna verify. So when you sign up, you do need to like verify the email address. And I'm just really quickly doing that on my phone. Oh. I thought I did that. Well, anyways, so before you can publish, you just need to verify your email address. So they give you like, step-by-step kind of instructions on here on how to do the episode here. So this is where I said you can actually record in Anchor. So you can just hit record and you just allow it to use your microphone and you can start recording. And again, you can just hit record and I'm gonna just talk like this is a sample. And so notice that it says here, heads up, you can record for up to 30 minutes in your web browser. If you'd like to record for longer, you can use any app on your computer and then upload the file. And that is what I'm going to show you guys in just a second, but this is just an example of, something we're recording. So I'm stopping and you can rename it. So you can just say podcast test. I've noticed that if you type like I did, like while it's still processing and like analyzing everything, it doesn't save. But now that it's done, you can like podcast test, which I can't spell. There you go, it's saved. So now all you do is you wait, look, you kind of scroll until you see this little hand and you move it over. And then what you can do over on the right-hand side here is you can click to upload. And if you remember, we had the podcast intro test. That was what we created before. And it's going to put that there. So you can upload any pieces in here. And you can also, like, I haven't played around with this, but you can also play around with, like, there's different transitions you can add in. Since this is Spotify, you can add music to your show. You can add any Spotify songs to your anchor show, and then once it's published, your audience can listen exclusively on Spotify. That's kind of cool. I have not done that yet, but like I said, this is a really cool thing to do. So this is like, it's a really short episode, but what you do is you click on Save Episode. And this is not going to publish, like it says up here. Before you can publish, you need to verify your email address. But in Anchor, you want to title your episode. So you could say, this is a podcast test. And then you have to put in like an episode description. And this is where I said, like with that Pixabay, where you can put in, you can like copy that link and put it back, which I closed out of that tab before, but you know, when like we can bring this back, like you could just copy that and put it right in there. I think however, I think with that, you need to be in there we go. That was like an HTML. So to do that, you have to switch to HTML and put that in, and then go back to rich text. When you're in like rich text, it just automatically like puts, like it does the HTML for you, which I love. So you can say in this episode, we are playing around with creating a podcast. And in these episode description, I usually put like, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on iTunes. And now what you can do is, this is where I said you can schedule it. So you can publish now, or you can choose like a different date. Like, let's say you want to schedule it for Thursday at 8 p.m. And you can confirm it. And so now it has a published date there. Or you can either schedule the episode, or you can save it as a draft. Since this is a test and I don't actually want to publish this, we are saving it as a draft here. And so then this is where on Spotify, like, or on Anchor, they're going to show you all of the analytics here. And then what you can do is you can go to settings and update settings. And so we're going to call this the Amy Show. So we have like the podcast name here, And then we put like the description. This is an educational podcast on how to create a podcast. It can be anything that you want. And then this is where we can put in the cover art that we created when we were in Canva, which I didn't download. And so I'm now going to download. Here. There we go. So now we can go to update cover art and we can upload an image. And we have our beautiful graphic. And there we go. Just going to give this a moment. And then, so for your podcast category, you want to choose a category here. So it can be like any of these, like books, design, business, nonprofit, like comedy, education. There's so many different categories. So you just want to pick whatever is closest to what your podcast is about. So for the purpose of this one, I'm just going to say education, and then this is in English, and then you can say if it's like going to be clean or explicit, and you can put in like, here's your website, like you could put in your custom URL. You can like link your social media like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and everything. And then when you're done, you can just hit save. And if you notice that once we hit save and added some information, there is our graphic here. There's the title of our show and our description. And we have a public site. So this is since we haven't put anything out there, there's nothing. And it takes a little bit, it takes like maybe an hour or less or more, depending, to actually update the web page. Like, since we just created this, like while we're talking, it's not fully there yet. But then again, so we made our first episode, and then you can set up monetization. This is just a place where if people come to your website and they want to donate money to your podcast, you can monetize it that way. And then the bottom part is get listeners. All that's left to do is tell people about your podcast. And on this page, as soon as you get episodes, you'll get analytics and everything. And I found that it takes that doesn't take that long. It takes maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more, in order for the podcast to, when you hit publish, to get distributed to Spotify. Since Anchor is by Spotify, it comes right away. What you can do is you could go to settings and then podcast availability. Yeah, and they say as soon as you publish an episode, it'll be available on Spotify. And then you do, like with Apple Podcasts, I do recommend, like, they take a little bit of time to approve podcasts, and they like Anchor does offer to automatically distribute the podcast to places, but I always check with Apple, because if there is an issue or anything like that, it's faster if you're like checking and you can like fix it, and then it'll like show up. But I found that it can take like up to a month to get approved on Apple. That doesn't mean you can't like have your podcast out and like share it and do whatever with it, but it just might take some time for it to get approved and be on Apple Podcasts. And that was, I know I talked like really fast. I covered a lot. I know I covered a lot. So if you guys who are live, if you have any questions, you can like pop them in either the Q&A or the chat box, and we have a little bit of time for any questions that you have about getting the podcast started, or any of the tech when it comes to podcasting. The Q&A, perfect. If there will be 2 people hosting, what microphones are recommended for each person to have their own? That is a really good question. So I do recommend like that blue Snowball microphone. Now, my question for that is, are you going to be in the same room as that person while recording, or is it going to be, is the like hosting together going to be done remotely? Remote. So each person can just use their own microphone. I've done Zoom interviews where people have been on their computers, and the sound has been fine, like on their end with whatever microphone or whatever they have in their computer. I've done or they've used AirPods, like from the Apple AirPods, and that sound has been totally fine. But if you want like better quality sound, like I recommend that blue Snowball microphone, and I recommend it because it's a good sound quality, and it's also not like too pricey. Any other questions? I do recommend, like for remote, some issues I've run into is if like the internet is bad, that can affect the sound quality. And so with the Zoom, the audio and everything can be better if you turn your cameras off. But some people, they do podcasts and also do like videos, like uploading the videos to YouTube or something. That's been like an issue that I've run into a couple times, where maybe the internet hasn't been the best or something. Difference on paid and not paid Canva. Okay, so for my podcast and like my personal, I have a paid Canva account. What is nice about the Canva that is paid is that you have more like customization options. Let me bring Canva back up again. Here we go. So under this like more, there's like styles, and this is when you're in the with the styles, like you could just click one button and it changes like everything. Like look how it changed like literally everything. And when you have the pro version of it, you can create what's called like a brand kit, and you can upload your own fonts. You can have your own like branding here. So instead of like, these are all Canva chosen that you can change, which it's fun to play around with, but you can create your own like branding and have that be like a choice that you can do. Like all and then there's, I mean, there's more that you can do too. You can upload your own fonts. You can create your brand kit, which is really helpful for, because that branding can go with choosing like this heading, subheading, and the body here. You just have more, you have more options with the pro, but you can create something really great with the free version. Let me see what this has. And you also get like, there's premium photos, videos, and elements. That's where you can use like the background remover. There's premium animations, and you have more storage. And so, and I think it's like, it's $12.95 a month for Canva Pro, and you can put like up to 5 users on it. Like if you have people who are like working with you, this is great. If you decide like, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to hand it off to somebody. Oh, it's not sharing. I'm sorry. Hold on. Here we go. Is that better? Because I'm technology. Okay, you see it now, right? Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So you can do like what I was playing around with these styles. So it like automatically changes like everything with the graphic we created. And when you have like the pro, you can create your own like branding. So I can log, let me, maybe, might not let me. Like I have the pro just because I like the brand kit, because it has everything be in like my branding, and it's easier to have everything. And then what, we didn't really look at elements here, but you notice that like, let's just say podcast. There's anything with like the crown, that's like a pro. So you don't have access to all of these cool little like photos and graphics if you don't have the pro. Personally, I find that it's worth it for what I use it for, but for the purpose of like this program, I wanted to show like how you can like create at least like a simple like podcast and everything for the least amount of money. Does that answer your question? Okay, perfect. Any other questions? GarageBand equals Audacity. Yes, so Audacity you can use on a Mac or a PC. But I know people who have Macs and they use GarageBand. I personally I have not used it because I only have iPads, and while it's on there, I haven't really been recording on my iPad. So I haven't used it, so that's why I didn't demo it, but you can use Audacity for a PC or for a Mac, I'm sorry. Stop sharing. Anything else? You're good. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. And the recording, I'm not sure when it's going to be up, but there will be a recording of this. And thank you guys for coming. And I hope you have a good night.